Considered totally safe, this neighborhood now?
It depends on who you ask.
I don't know who would want to move here.
Well, people moved, but people did move here, right?
People are worried about it too.
Would you live here? I don't think I would. Maybe I'm a chicken shit. I don't know.
I don't know.
It would have to be like a really good deal.
I survived it before.
That's true, you did survive it. And allegedly they may not have disclosed the history to the people who bought them, which is awful, needless to say. Otherwise, as you can see, it's like, you know, the way Chernobyl is now, the way it's just woods. It's just, nature has sort of taken its course here. Look at that. But there's still a few people who decided to stay, obviously. Damn, it's very interesting though, isn't it?
These are the people that didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to.
I'm not sure if I'd take a house here if they gave me one for free. Would you take one? No? Would you take one, Kathy?
No, why?
No.
Why?
Nestled in the woods. If you were a realtor, that's what you'd call it, right? Check out this picturesque house nestled in the woods of Love Canal. We swear all the toxic chemicals have been cleaned up. It's totally safe. Time to get the F out of Dodge. The Love Canal neighborhood here of Niagara Falls. Absolutely notorious place. One that somehow I have never been to before, even though I grew up about a half hour away, and this place was in the news constantly in the late 70s and 1980s. I'm dating myself now. But one of the most notorious toxic dump sites that more than 1,000 people, homes were evacuated in this area between like 1976 and around 1980 or so. Going to take a look around here because I've never been here before, and it's only 5 minutes away from the airport, and we're going to give you a little idea of what the history of this place is as well.
It was hard to believe this could not happen in the United States of America.
For years, the Love Canal Homeowners Association has cited evidence of significant health problems in the neighborhood. Birth defects and miscarriages.
Severe migraine headache.
Respiratory disease.
Already 8 cases of cancer on a 15-house street.
I thought I just had problems with my one daughter, and we just found out in January our other one has rheumatoid arthritis. We have hearing problems with all the children. The baby, he has a deformed foot, so it's just constantly still running to the hospitals and children's hospitals.
People were talking about how they were...
A quarter of a century after it went in, chemical waste is coming out of the ground.
People had no idea that they were living on top of 22,000 tons of toxic chemicals.
Health experts found more than 80 dangerous chemicals oozing to the surface.
All of a sudden, on a dime, everything blows up.
You see, here's the start of the fence right here. The area is all fenced off. And the EPA does a lot of testing around here, and supposedly it's now safe. Supposedly, but would you want to live here? I sure as hell would not. And let's take a look around here and see who lives here. I mean, it's an ordinary neighborhood, small, you know, sort of humble houses. Nothing out of the ordinary at all. Arrived in Love Canal, and I was trying to figure out where I was going, and I saw Kathy here was taking a break from mowing, and she said she grew up right over here, so she said she'll explain this area a little bit to me, because as I said, I grew up a half hour away, and this place was always in the news in the late 70s and 80s, which I'm dating myself by admitting to. But I know that there were almost like 1,000 families evacuated around here, but were you one of them, or?
No, we moved out just before.
Okay.
We moved out in September of 77, and it all exploded in January of 78.
So you did not get, so because most people got their homes bought out and they got a kind of a good deal from the state, so you did not get that then? You were?
No, because these were townhouses. This was a manor. It was called Griffin Manor here, and you rented.
Yes, okay, I remember that now.
You rented here.
I remember reading about that.
And the sludge was coming up in all the basements, and my dad said, we're leaving. So we left in September of 77, and like I said, in January of 78, it just all blew out. And the school was right in here, 99th Street.
Did you go to that school?
Yes, I did.
You were a very little girl when you moved. So do you remember it, though? You were young.
We left here, I was 11.
You were 11 years old.
I did when I was 5.
Okay. So you do remember it?
Yes, I remember it.
Was it traumatic?
No.
Because you were a little kid, you had no idea what the heck was going on, right?
No.
So you didn't know anything about it?
No.
But your parents are probably stressed out about it.
My dad was like, we're getting out of here, because they didn't know that it had seeped over into this area. And he knew that, you know, the canal used to be here years ago.
Right.
But, you know, and everything was supposed to be fine.
Right.
And then it just all started blowing up.
Did people get now they did get a settlement eventually, the people who lived here. Do you know, did your family get any of that money?
No, because
they left
here for it, and we didn't have anything. You had to have something. You had to have been sick and that kind of thing. And like here were all the houses. Like their backyards came up to here.
Yeah.
All the way down here. These were people's backyards. And the street in there, their houses were in front that way.
Right.
And so when we walked to school, you walked down here, and then the street there, you turned down and went in to go. And I said all here were houses this way, but up in that field, up in that section there was nothing. And I said the school was in here.
Now, I remember reading about some of the controversy about this too, and that the renters and the people who lived in the apartments did not get as much, or that maybe they got nothing at all compared to the people who owned houses in the neighborhood.
Well, yeah, because this wasn't even built until '72. There used to be the old Griffin Manor. If you went down around the corner, they were big white buildings, and they were real old. I'm talking from the 50s or whatever. And they tore all those down and built this whole new section here.
Why is this all totally vacant now? Do you know? Like, how come now that it's supposedly safe, why is this just vacant fields? Do you know? Is that a good question?
That's a good question. I mean, they built right up here.
Uh-huh.
You go up a little further on the other side of all these trees, there's, you know, homes there. Well, not homes, but townhouse things, senior citizen living.
Okay.
And I don't understand, because Griffin Manor was right up in there, too.
So who do you think owns all this vacant land?
City.
The city owns it.
The city owns all this.
And so who hires you to clean up this area? The city. Okay, so the city owns this, so they could develop it if they wanted to.
Yeah, but I don't know who would want to move here.
Well, people moved, but people did move here, right?
People are worried about it, too.
Would you live here? I don't think I would. Maybe I'm a chicken shit. I don't know.
I don't know.
It would have to be like a really good deal.
I survived it before.
That's true, you did survive it.
I wasn't born here. See, the people that moved in all these little houses,
right?
They were all kind of uniform. And when they were built way back, I mean, you're talking now 80 years ago.
Right.
And nothing was said.
But there were a lot of women who had miscarriages and people who had cancer and
drinking the water and stuff. That's where the chemicals were, in there. They weren't out here. They didn't bury them here. They buried them in there because that's where the canal went to the river.
So you think this area was okay?
Yeah, there was no dumping in here.
Right.
But because the same sewage,
it was close,
things
though,
like
yeah.
that. Like I said, in our basement, sludge would come up, and I remember my dad collecting it and taking it in a bottle and saying, "Look, this isn't just regular sewage." And nobody said anything, and he says, "Okay, well, we're out of here."
That was smart. So where'd you guys move?
We moved downtown.
Downtown Falls, Niagara Falls? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and we lived there for 30 years until my father got old, and you know.
You might remember this, but a year or two ago, I seem to recall some stuff in the papers. They were saying that people were being sold houses like on the east side of the canal, and that was supposed to be a no-go area, or it wasn't supposed to be, or it wasn't disclosed, or something like that. Do you remember that?
Where's the east side of the canal? That side?
Right, I guess that would be the other side of it, right?
People still live down there, on
right.
the other side of Colvin. But a lot of those houses were emptied. People left and stuff like that. Then somebody bought them all, fixed them all up, and sold them again. But nobody really left, because the fence ends down on Colvin.
Was it a nice neighborhood, though, to be a kid in?
Here?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes.
You have a lot of other kids you played with, and was it nice?
Yes, it was full of kids.
It was full of kids here.
That school was packed. Everybody from around here, all the houses here, all this, everybody went to school there.
So you moved out, and then a couple years later, the whole controversy occurred.
No, it was like 6 months later.
6 months later. Okay, sorry.
I moved out in September.
And then
January of '78 is when it all.
And then you were seeing it on the news. Irv Weinstein, remember him?
Yes.
Irv Weinstein, what was it, WKBW, or which station was he on?
7.
It was on like every night.
Yeah.
You and your parents must have been like, holy cow.
Well, we knew. My dad knew, because Lois Gibbs was coming around telling everybody. You know, I mean, it just didn't.
So Lois Gibbs was the woman in the neighborhood who was really the organizer. She was going door to door.
In that neighborhood. She didn't live in this neighborhood, but she lived in the neighborhood over here. And she was the one going around.
She became like a famous sort of person, didn't she?
She was the activist for all of this. And she's the one that got them to notice and got them to do something. And, you know, she started the testing thing and all that kind of stuff.
She was the one who sort of got things organized and stirred up here, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she did.
But then I think
from others, I'm sure, but you know, it wasn't just her. But she's the one that, you know,
galvanized
she was the main
it.
person for all of that.
I read a book about this Love Canal a few years back. I forget what it was called, but I remember reading though that at that time she was somewhat controversial in the neighborhood because some people liked what she was doing and were on board with it, and other people didn't like it for some reason, but I don't remember.
To stir things up. People like their little homes. They like their little neighborhood. And
right, because there were some people who were in the exclusion area who refused to go. I do remember that.
There's still a couple houses over here, like 100th Street, 101st Street, something like that. There's still like maybe 2 or 3 houses, maybe 4. Don't quote me, but, you know.
On which street?
On 100th Street, 101st, something like that. If you go down...
Over on the other side?
Yeah, you go down Frontier here, you'll see where streets are open, and you'll go down them streets. They're kind of dreary, but there's a couple houses.
So the 99th Street school that you went to, was there anybody, like any of your classmates get sick or anything like that you remembered?
I couldn't tell you that.
Because you switched schools then, I
idea.
assume, right?
Yes, definitely.
You switched schools.
Yes,
so,
I have no idea.
So from my recollection of the book, though, is that the city Hooker Chemical Company sold that property to the city of Niagara Falls for only $1 because they knew they'd buried like 20,000 tons of toxic chemicals underneath, and they made him sign a waiver.
From as a child, my dad would tell me the stories. Yes, because the Hooker Company bought it from the person that had the canal, and that didn't work out, and then Hooker dumped in it.
Right.
And when Hooker sold it for $1, it was known.
Right.
That the stuff was there and that it shouldn't be built on.
And they made the city in the contract, they signed a waiver saying basically you can't sue us, that we're disclosing to you.
I have no clue.
That's what it was, what supposedly they did was.
I have no clue.
And then so they thought, let's build a school. We got this property cheap. Let's build a school onto that, that has to be one of the crazier decisions in like local government history.
Yes, you would think. And then all the houses that they built, they threw up these houses real quick, you know, all uniform type looking houses. They were all ranch, no 2-story houses. They were all just, you know, 1-story homes, all kind of looked the same, and, you know, different color paint, but same kind of house, and they put them all up. And
I'm just thinking out loud here, like,
the city did that. I don't know who the contractor was, any of that kind of thing.
Supposedly they've done all kinds of testing and the area is now safe and all that. I don't know if somebody gave me a real good deal if I would get a house here, just because you never know, like, you know, is the government telling the truth? Like, I don't know if I trust the government to verify that everything's totally safe, you know? I don't know.
I have no idea. I'm not moving back out here. I mean, it's not even a factor whether it's safe or not. I just have no reason to. I have my own home now and things, and I'm settled.
Do you still live in the Falls?
Old too. Yeah.
You still live in the city?
Yes.
Yeah, the Falls has changed a lot too. Do you think for the better or worse?
It's not for me to judge.
Well, everybody has their opinion.
Judge,
my dad was born in Little Italy on 15th Street.
Okay, yeah.
And my grandfather was born there. My father was born there. Lived there until about the 1950s. He graduated from Bishop Duffy. I don't know if you know all the... Yeah. You didn't go to Duffy, did you?
No, no.
And it has deteriorated a lot. At least his old neighborhood, it's scary. The last time I was back here visiting my mom, man, I went to his old neighborhood. Yikes. I mean, it's like boarded up houses.
Mine too.
Yours too?
Lived too. Yeah, where I lived on 6th Street. So that was...
On the south end or 60?
I don't know what the south end or the north end is or anything. I just
But it doesn't look good is what you know.
No, it's down there by the falls, down by the old convention center, you know, where the casino is now and all that. I live down in that area there.
Well, a friend of mine told me that he thinks, though, that the falls bottomed out like maybe like 10 years ago, and then it's now getting better again. You don't agree?
Keep going back.
You think it bottomed out further back than that?
Yes.
20, 30, 40 years ago?
No, I'd say at least 20 years ago.
20 years ago it bottomed out?
Things started to really...
deteriorate.
The problem is that the older folk started passing away or retiring and things and moving away.
Right.
You know, they wanted to move other places, Florida and things like that. You know, they're still doing.
That's where I live now, Florida.
Yeah, so now the houses, the kids don't want them.
Right. So they're cheap.
So they're just sitting there.
Right.
Or nobody did anything with them. They just left them. You know, say their parents passed away, because they did stay here.
Yeah.
They passed away, the kids live in California or wherever they live, and just never came back. Took out what they needed to take out and just left them.
The first house where my dad was born in on 14th Street is bulldozed now. Like almost the entire block has no houses there.
Down off of Falls Street.
Yeah, it's like bulldozed. It is not even there anymore.
Right.
The next one he lived out on 15th Street. I looked at it. Most of those houses are like boarded, boarded up.
15th and where?
15, I think it's 10. The address is 1017 15th Street.
Oh, well then that's up further up towards.
But it's a mess, I'm telling you. Like, it does not look good. And when I looked it up to find out who owns these houses now, most of them are owned by this NFR company, Niagara Falls Redevelopment. Yeah. And they own like half of those, at least half of those dilapidated.
All down around Falls Street and everything else.
They own that whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I guess
they're waiting for development to come.
It's too expensive, I think, to fix those places up, right? I mean, or I don't know. Who knows?
Well, they're all gutted and stuff. People, when the houses started shutting down,
you
know, people would go in and take the copper and the furnaces and all that kind of, and the plumbing out to salvage all that kind of stuff, because they sat there for years and years, empty.
Right.
So that's, what are you going to do? But now they've just boarded them up and left them, and they mow them and take care of them down there. But
right. So what used to be here? The apartment buildings were here, like playgrounds too, like anything like what was here?
Oh, no playgrounds, just the townhouse place. They were called courts, and it was Griffin Manor. This one was a great big oval one here, and then you had a few more like half moon ones, a couple more down here. And
but was this fence here just like this when you were a kid?
No.
There was no fence, so you could play on that side, or there were houses on that side?
It was houses.
Houses
their
all the way.
Their backyards came up to, see about where that little well thing is there?
Yeah.
That's about where their fences were for their backyard. Everybody here had fences, for their backyard, so everybody here wasn't cutting through and that kind of thing. That was their backyard. And then the street was out, I don't know, probably where those pine trees are, and the street was there.
So this is a functional neighborhood all the way over there.
Yeah.
Now, you would never know that looking at this area, would you?
No.
And it says no trespassing because that area they think is still unsafe, I guess?
I couldn't
Who knows?
tell you.
But that's the no-go area.
Right.
Got it.
Right. I mean, they come
Wow,
and
it's
they still
interesting.
have to test and keep things.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting. After you moved away from here, did you ever come back or no?
Well, for what? There was nothing here.
There was nothing here, just to see what the heck was going on. Because the media was everywhere.
This down, but they didn't tear this down for quite a while, because a girlfriend of mine that lived up the street here a little bit from me, they stayed until the end, until they had to leave.
Until the bitter end?
Yes, until the bitter end, and then they were given hotel rooms and moving money and all that kind of stuff. So they stayed probably, I don't know, a few years after. I moved out, I was 11. I remember her 16th birthday, they were still here. I came
do your parents, do your parents ever regret the decision to leave? Like when they did? Because if they'd stayed a little longer, they would have gotten some assistance, right? Wasn't worth it to risk your health, right?
What are you worried about? They're moving us and putting us in a hotel, or you know what I mean, sitting here and waiting and drinking sludge water for 4 more years to what?
Not worth it, right?
It wasn't worth it. I mean, we moved out, got a new place, and that was the end of it.
Well, some people got some money. I mean, I remember looking it up.
Don't know
who knows
got what.
if they were the homeowners.
I don't even remember what my friends got. If anything, I said I know they were given moving money, that kind of thing, to move out, but I don't know about anything else. I mean, it's not like her mother told me, you know, and anybody I knew from school that lived in that area. I mean, yes, their houses were all bought now, but I mean, as far as details, I really can't tell you.
I hear you. I have made it to Love Canal, notorious Love Canal, one of the most famous environmental disaster zones in American history. You know, as I said, I grew up 30 minutes away from here. Somehow I never came to this place. It's 5 minutes away from the Niagara Falls Airport. I'm going to date myself here, but in the late 70s and early 80s, this place was in the news. If you lived in Buffalo, this place was in the news constantly, starting in around 1976, I think it was, when the Niagara Gazette first started to break the story that there were a lot of women in this neighborhood, a lot of pregnant women who were miscarrying. There was an unusually high rate of cancer here. And they sort of broke open the dam of all sorts of issues that were health issues that were going on here. And there was a woman named Lois Gibb who was really a trailblazing sort of pioneer. She was a housewife in this neighborhood who started organizing because she and her neighbors understood that there was all kinds of crazy public health issues here. Women miscarrying, high rates of cancer, fetal abnormalities, things like this. And she started going door to door to ask people and to collect information. Hey, do you know anybody here in the neighborhood who's gotten sick or has had health issues? People were having this like black tar sludge that was coming up in their, from their basements. And so she sort of started it all in 1976, but just to step back a bit here. So by the way, this is the fence. I'm standing right up against the exclusion area right back here on the other side of the fence here. But to step back just a little bit, first of all, why is this place called Love Canal? Back in 1894, there was a guy named William, what's his name? William Love, obviously. Sorry, so William Love back in 1894, his plan was to develop this neighborhood into sort of like a utopia and to use sort of hydroelectric power from the Niagara River and Lake Ontario in order to create this beautiful new community, and it was a bust. It never ended up working out. And the Hooker Chemical Company, which later became the Occidental Chemical Company, later owned the land where this canal was, where Love's Canal was, and they dumped an insane amount of toxic chemicals, something like 20,000 tons of toxic chemicals here, starting in, I believe, around 1942 during World War II, from like 1942, I believe, until about 1952 or 1953. So in 1953, I think it was, Hooker Chemical Company presented to the city of Niagara Falls what seemed like a sweetheart deal at the time. They said, we're going to give you this big area, this big Love Canal area, and for $1, for the bargain price of just $1, right? And the catch was, there was in the contract, they put in the contract a disclosure that they were not liable for any bad thing that happened here because they disclosed the chemicals. I don't know if they disclosed the full extent of the chemicals, of their dumping or not, but there was a disclosure in there basically saying you're not going to be able to sue us for this no matter what happens here. And so the city bought this area here for $1, this whole neighborhood. And they built, what did they decide to do? They built playgrounds here. They built a school on 100th Street, no, sorry, 99th Street here. And so they built a public school here on 99th Street, and then a neighborhood sort of grew up around that, and more houses started to become developed, and it was a cheap place to live. In the, let's say, 1950s and 1960s and 70s, it was an affordable, nice, small community. But then, as I said, starting in the late 1970s, people started realizing, hey, what the hell's going on here? Too many people are getting sick. We're noticing this black sludge in our basements. And so it was like, that's when all the organizing and essentially when the shit hit the fan, starting in 1976. But it was a very slow and gradual process. First of all, the company, Hooker Chemical Company, just kept denying it, trying to absolve themselves of any responsibility of this. And the government was very slow to respond at first too, very slow to respond. But I think, you know, the initial tranche was, okay, we're going to evacuate people just from this one street. I don't know if it was 99th Street or in this area. Then, okay, we're going to make it a little bigger. I think the first tranche was maybe 200 families were evacuated from this neighborhood, and their homes were bought out by the state of New York, and they were relocated. And then other people who were in these apartments, who were renters, were put into hotel rooms and such. But it was a very slow process. It was a process of years. And then, you know, really by, of course, there were some people who refused to go, which is also quite interesting. People were like, hey, this is my home. We're not leaving. And so some people refused to go. Eventually, I think by like around 1981 or 1982, the city also demolished more than 200 homes in this neighborhood too. And they created sort of like an exclusion zone, and they have a very, very long process of cleaning up this place. They placed a clay cap over the canal to try to limit the damage as part of the cleanup. The cap covered like 40 acres or so, and eventually almost 1,000 families were evacuated from this place. And again, some of them refused to go. They sued the Occidental Chemical Company. Hooker became Occidental they were seeking $15 billion. And according to what I found on the internet, the final settlement was about $20 million. Although exactly who received it, there were a lot of people. It was only people who could prove that they had some health condition that came as a result of the toxic chemicals. Like dioxin was one of the toxic chemicals that they found in here. So you had to be able to prove that your medical condition was directly attributable. This wasn't just like, hey, I lived in Love Canal, give me my share of the 20 million. So $20 million, and that was it. And they created what was, I think, called a super fund. It was really sort of a revolutionary case of environmental activism here succeeding, where this money was created for this sort of exactly this sort of an environmental disaster. Now, fast forward to today. They say that the government says, the EPA says that this area is safe. There's a lot of testing that is done. You know, we're going to show you, there's still people living here in this neighborhood, and some of them very, very close to this former toxic dump site. Would you want to live here? Hell no, I would not live here. You offered me a free house in this neighborhood. Hell no, I would not want to. There's already a lot of environmental and sort of health issues with living in this region to begin with, because of, you know, all of the, wasn't just Hooker Chemical Company here dumping, you know, toxic chemicals, but there was a lot of industry in this area, especially when I was growing up. Very, very high incidence of cancer and other autoimmune diseases, things like that here in this area. So if I was offered a home here, fuck no, hell no would I be taking a free home here in Love Canal. And by the way, they don't call this neighborhood Love Canal anymore either. There's a couple different names for it. I think part of it is called LaSalle now, and I think part of it is called maybe Black Creek, something like that. Anyway, so you can be rest assured that realtors are not marketing this area as, hey, come buy a new house in Love Canal. There was a story in the New York Times, I think about a year ago, that said, in fact, that that there were some people who were either renters here or homeowners who were, it wasn't disclosed to them. They rented the house here, or they bought a house here, and they didn't know a damn thing about the history of this place. They did not know about the history of it all, and they were living very, very close to it. And also supposedly on the east side of it, which was supposed to, as I understood it, be part of an exclusion area. So very unfortunate for them. Would you stick around? What would you do if you bought a house or you rented a house and then later on you found out the toxic history of the neighborhood? Wow, I don't know what the hell I would do. I think I would get the fuck out. Looking at my notes and refreshing my memory of that New York Times story, yeah. So they found that there were at least 4 homes which were sold between 2020 and 2022 on the east side of the canal, which was supposed to be a no-go, non-residential area. It was supposed to be an area where only commercial enterprises could exist, businesses, but no one living there. 4 homes were sold in that area below market rate for between $45,000 and $65,000. So they were selling houses for dirt cheap over there. And allegedly, they may not have disclosed the history to the people who bought them, which is awful, needless to say. Here you go. Here's one of the holdout houses right here that's right next to the no-go area. And I guess these people never left because their mail's getting delivered right now, so somebody still lives here. This is so weird because, like, you're driving on this exclusion zone street and there's a couple houses here, and it's mostly just woods right next to this exclusion zone in the fence area of the canal. But there are a couple of houses here, a couple of holdout houses. Otherwise, as you can see, it's like, you know, the way Chernobyl is now, the way it's just woods. It's just, nature has sort of taken its course here. Look at that. But there's still a few people who decided to stay, obviously. I'm just trying to figure this whole neighborhood out. This is just crazy. There's still some people living like right here. It says 24-hour video surveillance. I don't know, why would you want to trespass in here? You want to get the hell away from here, right? And now there's like just a bunch of like vehicles here and stuff. I don't know what the hell this is. Maybe some kind of a business. There's a bunch of trucks here. Trucks and stuff like that. Some sort of a business is being operated here in some trailer, so I guess somebody is living here. Other than that, it's just woods. Here we go. There are a few more houses up here. People living here right on the edge of this wilderness. The epicenter right here, 100th Street, 99th Street, 100th Street, right in here was the epicenter. And as you can see, it's blocked off now. It's blocked off now, and there's an overgrown wilderness down there where that neighborhood used to be. And there used to be a school on 99th Street too, as I said. But then right across the street, you still have An ordinary neighborhood on the other side of Colvin Boulevard. So lots of people still living very close to Love Canal. You can see, now we're just in an ordinary neighborhood. Ordinary working class neighborhood here. This is 98th Street. So this is just like a block away, a couple blocks away from where the elementary school was in this neighborhood. And really the epicenter of the disaster was very close to here. And now it's a just an ordinary Western New York neighborhood. You see there's lots of Bills signs. There's a game tonight going on. So there's Bills signs everywhere, as there would be. And there's a person walking his dog, as you can see here. So I just met Nina here. We're across from the fence, which is where the Love Canal used to be, and she lived in this neighborhood her whole life. So I just figured I'd ask you, what is this neighborhood like?
I think it's nice. I like our neighborhood. It's pretty quiet.
Is it?
I feel like not much going on. Unfortunately, I feel like there's a lot of, like, I like to go, I take my dog for walks or I ride my bike through, like, the streets over here, because I think it's a nice enough area, but unfortunately people, like, litter and stuff.
Well, you mean the area of the no-go area over there, where it's just where it's empty?
Well, definitely in that one. I don't like to ride my bike through there because there's bugs.
Because it's too buggy?
That one's, like, abandoned. Yeah, very abandoned.
But there's still a few houses over there, which I found interesting. Like over there on 100th Street, there's I think 2 or 3 houses.
Yes,
but it's like wilderness over there too.
It is. I think my mom's one best friend, actually her daughter, I believe, lives over there. So it must not be that awful living over there. It's abandoned. It's pretty quiet.
Really?
To be honest.
And they don't mind it?
No, they must love it. I'm pretty sure they're still there.
I'm gonna give you this because it's now that the planes are flying by and stuff like that. It'll be better if I give you my mic. So, but is it considered totally safe, this neighborhood now?
It depends on who you ask. So I'm 26 and I've lived here for 26 years and I'm all right. So I guess I would say it's fine. Like I said, I don't live in it, but
close to it though.
Yeah, close, very close to it. And I still go through it, so I don't really feel too...
And you never had any health problems?
No, I don't feel too unsafe going through or anything like that, so...
What about your friends in the neighborhood? Like, is anybody...
Actually, I have a friend that I think they moved because they don't like that
They were worried
area.
about
Actually, and then their neighbors moved because, like, they're like, oh, stuff from the basement... Sorry, stuff from the basement is... coming up or whatnot, like,
really?
You know, whatever, but like
I've read stories that some people have still found stuff in their basement.
Yes, but I can't say that I don't know what exactly it is because I don't know if they got it tested or anything like that.
But they did move out after they were alarmed?
They did, yes.
Wow.
So,
where'd they go? Nearby or?
No, I think, I'm not even sure, not nearby though.
Okay.
Yeah, not too nearby.
Wow.
But yeah, other
so there are
that,
some people that are still worried about stuff.
There are. Okay. I wouldn't say my family is, because we're still here and we've never really...
Do you live with your parents? Or?
Yes, I live with my mother. We don't really talk about it. Yeah, everybody's good that we've, and like I said, me and my sister have lived here our whole life. She's 30. She's going to be 31.
Were your parents here during the whole crisis in the late 70s and early 80s when they were evacuating people and stuff?
They were not.
So when did they come to the neighborhood?
Like in 93.
So way after.
Yes.
And they were, I assume, somebody, the realtor probably told them, don't worry, it's fine?
I'm guessing they were probably like, oh, nice, cheap housing. Right? So
you could get a deal on it.
Right? Yeah, I think so.
You think that's how they ended up here, just low price?
Probably. I would assume so. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that they considered it because, like I said, like the area is not awful, so it's...
No, it seems like a nice quiet area.
It is. I love it.
There's no crime here. Like
no, not really.
There's some areas of Niagara Falls that are kind of dangerous.
Yes, there are, but I wouldn't say like this area is. I mean, of course, everywhere has like a bit of everything going on, but I don't feel unsafe here, like I said.
Have you ever watched any of the documentaries about Love Canal or read any of the books about it or art magazine articles or newspaper articles? Or you don't want to read about it?
No, you know, I've looked into it a bit because I find it interesting as well, especially since I live here.
Right.
But I've only watched like a few, like maybe a video a while ago, but other than that, I don't really pay attention to it, to be honest.
And what did you think? If you were a kid growing up here at that time, would you have freaked out?
I thought it was scary. Yeah, I thought it's because when you read about it, it's terrifying. And then, you know, there are people, like it says, they're still there. So you don't know what can happen. But like I said, we just live our life still. Just keep on going.
And just don't worry about it?
Yeah.
Now, you think you'll stay here in this neighborhood or will you go someplace else eventually?
I would probably move somewhere else, but it's not because of the neighborhood. It's just for somewhere different.
Just to try something different?
Yeah,
but
different
kids,
areas.
Like, okay, so there's tall fences and everything like that. But,
yes.
But over here, there's like all these woodsy areas. Do kids play in those areas?
I would say no.
You didn't play in those areas? You told
no,
not to?
Yes. I was told not to stay away from there because there's not really anything. It's pretty dangerous, like if you're going over there alone
right.
anyway as a kid, because you don't
it's
know who's
scary,
over there or what's over there.
Because it's very like it's like an overgrown,
just abandoned little street. Yes, yeah. I remember I did walk it the one time with my friend, and we were like, we got to turn around because it was just so.
Too scary.
It's filled with bugs. Honestly, that's the biggest problem.
So you weren't worried about the toxic chemicals. You're worried about getting bitten by
the bugs. Yeah, there was just too many sandflies. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes. No, I wasn't worried about that. But obviously, I don't really like dig around.
Right.
So it wouldn't be anything
but
like
the
that.
Tap water, you don't feel any danger drinking the tap water, do you?
I'm guilty because I love tap water. So that's why I'm like, I'm probably like the worst area to drink it, right?
But you survived it.
I love it. It's my favorite water.
Do you think the tap water here actually tastes good?
It's, for me, it is. A lot of people would say no, but
really?
Some people are.
So when you go someplace else, you're like, I miss the tap water of Love Canal.
I love it. That sounds like me. Yeah, I'm
Maybe
like, I'd rather
start
have
a
it.
company, Love Canal bottled water.
Oh
company.
my gosh, I'd be the only customer. My selling point is Love Canal.
That's hilarious. It's nice to meet you, Nita.
It was, nope, sorry. Oh my God, my bike's falling on you. Sorry, it's nice
Enjoy
to
the
meet
nice
you
weather.
as well.
Nice
Thank
to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Here in the neighborhood, very friendly, just like the other ladies that I've met. Super friendly, but he didn't want to be on camera. And he said he's lived here his whole life. He looked like he was like in his 50s. And he said, not worried at all. Feels just fine. Healthy as a horse, he said. No problem. I don't know, guys. I am still somewhat unconvinced. Maybe I am a chicken. I don't know. We're like, by the way, right by the fence, there's a playground too. So, I don't know. Imagine feeling that confident to take your kids to play on this playground. Right next, I mean, there's literally the fence over there. As you can see, there's people living here. These people have like a nice pool and stuff like that. They're living right here. And the fence is right over there, the no-go area. I would not do it. Such an interesting area though, Love Canal. Historic. I'm glad I finally came here to check the place out. I'm gonna walk around a little bit more here, but interesting to visit, but thanks but no thanks. I would not want to live here. This is sort of the end of the road over on the other side here. And you can see all kinds of no trespassing signs and stuff, yet there's a house right here. Super interesting. Imagine you'd get a really good deal selling a property right next to Love Canal. This is as close as I can get you guys without getting arrested. This is just an ordinary neighborhood now. It's amazing. There's a baseball field here too. Check that out. I mean, this is only a few hundred meters from the exclusion area. Not just one baseball field, actually a series of baseball fields. So, life has moved on here, obviously. Also, this is New York State, so Kamala Harris is definitely going to win this state. That doesn't take a genius to figure out. But in this neighborhood, I think I've seen so far 4 Trump flags. Like I just passed one that says, Trump, take America back. Other ones, keep America great, things like that. So Love Canal seems to be very much into the bills, no question about that. And there's also a lot of Trump fans around here too, interestingly enough. Working class white neighborhood, so I guess that makes the world's biggest wimp here. But even just for spending like a half hour walking around in that woodsy area next to the exclusion area, I guess I keep calling it. I don't know if that's the correct terminology or not, but right next to the fenced in area, that woodsy area, I spent like a half hour walking around in there. Now I've already got a fucking headache. What the fuck? It's probably like all in my head. It's all in my head. The headache, it's all in my head, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but fuck, I've got a headache just from being in this damn area. It's time to get the F out of Dodge. This is so weird being in this area. I mean, seriously, this is what I imagine Chernobyl is like now. All just completely overgrown, but there's a few houses, a few holdout people living here, which I find fascinating on these back streets here.
Avenue toward 102nd Street, then turn right onto
Be quiet, please, Google Maps.
Turn right onto 102nd Street.
nature is just taking its course here for the most part, but there's a few houses around. This is really interesting. This whole house is all up and down?
It's all up and down, and all the other streets.
And they knocked them down?
They knocked them all down.
Except for this one?
And there's a couple that are up here.
And there's a couple over there.
Over there. I think there's one back through there.
If you tried to sell a house in this area, could you get anything for it, you think? You'd have to be a real good real estate salesperson to sell a house over on this street, wouldn't you? Damn, it's very interesting though, isn't it?
These are the people that didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to.
It's super interesting.
Not have to.
And I guess they're healthy if they're still here, huh?
Well, it could be their children. It could be.
Right. I guess we shouldn't laugh about it.
Somebody.
But I never seen a neighborhood like this before, where it's just, you know, like woods, like you're in the middle of the woods. Do you live here too, in this neighborhood, or no? No, no. Okay.
I live in the country.
Kathy has told you stories about it, though.
Oh yes. I saw it on TV.
Have you?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
As a kid, I used to be up and down all these.
You don't know the people who live on this street, do you? Nah, you haven't been back here in a long time.
No. I mean, you're talking 40 some odd years ago.
I
lived here.
I'm not sure if I'd take a house here if they gave me one for free. Would you take one? No. Would you take one, Kathy?
No. Why?
No.
Why? Why would I want?
Because there's plenty of other places to live, right?
Yes. This is kind of secluded, and there's animals and God knows what out here, and.
Right. It is like kind of like living in the woods. It's kind of interesting.
I'd be afraid to live out here.
All right, guys, enjoy your lunch break.
Yes,
See you. Thanks, guys. See you. Bye. Fun to bump into Kathy again here on this absolutely desolate street. This is crazy. So you just got a couple of houses here, and that's it. Just a couple of holdouts. It's really interesting. An abandoned 18-wheeler back there. How weird is that? It's like an abandoned trailer. And some abandoned cars, seemingly abandoned in the woods here. This is so weird. And you got the expressway right up there. But you've got this street which formerly used to have hundreds of houses on it, as Kathy just told us. And now it's 98% vacant, other than a couple of these holdouts. So there's this one little house here that says Home Sweet Home. And there's all these warnings, security cameras, don't come nearby. Not very inviting. I would love to ask them what it's like to live on this street, but you just got this one house and then woods, 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 woods with abandoned vehicles and trailers and machinery and stuff. And then there's a couple more houses way up the block, but this street used to be full of houses. They just beached this car here with smashed out windows and stuff. Guess this is as good a place as any to dump your car if it doesn't run anymore. Like abandoned trucks and like machinery back here in the woods, as though at one point they were thinking about doing something with this land and then decided, oh, fuck it, we're not going to. So weird. So this is 102nd Street, east of the canal. And this is the area, I think, where no one was supposed to be able to live. This is a commercially zoned area. And yet, here you go. There are a few people living on this street. Apparently they are allowed to do so. Looks like over here there is at least one more house mixed in with the woods here. Nestled in the woods. If you were a realtor, that's what you'd call it, right? Check out this picturesque house nestled in the woods of Love Canal. We swear all the toxic chemicals have been cleaned up. It's totally safe. I don't know, dude. I don't know, people. Actually, this house could be abandoned, possibly. The other ones on this street were definitely lived in, you could tell. This one, maybe not. Maybe not. Certainly have peace and quiet, though. These folks who live here, they don't have any neighbors, and look at that, it's just woods behind their house. So they got that going for them, I guess. I don't know, man. I'm telling you, I'm probably just imagining things, but fuck, I've got a headache. I am getting the hell out of here. I have seen enough of Love Canal. Hasta la vista.